Do you suffer from anxiety or imposter syndrome? Are you a people pleaser? Are you a perfectionist? And do you sometimes feel broken or damaged because there's so much about you that needs fixing? Then I have really good news for you today, because those 4 are not actually 4 separate problems. They are one problem causing 4 different symptoms. I know that if you suffer with all of them, like I did, it can feel like there's something seriously wrong with you. Too many problems to deal with, too many things to fix. But they are not actually 4 separate problems. They are not 4 different diagnoses requiring 4 different solutions. They are, and this is what the evidence consistently points to, 4 expressions of the same underlying wound, the same root cause. I'm Dr. Berni Sewell, health scientist and energy healer, and in today's video I'm going to show you the single root that connects all 4 and why that changes everything about how to address them. See, living with more than one of these issues is exhausting in a very particular way, because it's not just the individual struggles, it's the accumulated weight of them, the anxiety that makes you avoid things, the perfectionism that means the things that you do try take 3 times longer than they should, or are never finished at all, the people pleasing that leaves you depleted because you have given more than you had, and the imposter syndrome that makes every success feel kind of borrowed rather than earned. And on top of all of that, often that kind of quiet bewilderment of wondering why you struggle with so many things all at once. And what it says about you, that you can't seem to get any of them to shift. And you probably tried to address them separately. Therapy for the anxiety, mindset work for the perfectionism, boundary setting for the people pleasing, journaling and affirmations for the imposter syndrome. And perhaps each has helped a little bit in moments, but none of them has fully gone. And when one goes quiet, another tends to get louder. And that is not because you failed or didn't do enough. There's a reason for that. And it is not that you are doing it wrong. So let me take each of these in turn, because I think when you understand what is underneath each one individually, the connection becomes impossible to miss. So let's look at anxiety first. And by anxiety in this instance, I mean particularly the kind that doesn't have an obvious source. It's kind of your nervous system running on a deep, often unconscious belief that you are not fundamentally safe and not fundamentally okay. Not because something is wrong in the world around you, but because you learned somewhere along the way that it's not safe being you. That you are not acceptable, that you don't deserve to take up space, and that love is something you must earn. And those beliefs, even when held at a level of unconscious thought, make the world feel uncertain and scary. They keep the body in alert at all times. It expects danger, it expects judgment, rejection constantly. And so it braces and it scans. It always looks for the threat, even when there isn't one physically in the room. So that's not a chemical imbalance, that's not a character flaw. That is a nervous system doing exactly what it learned to do to stay safe. Perfectionism looks, from the outside, like very high standards. And people are often told it is actually a good thing, a sign of conscientiousness, of caring about quality. And it can be, but perfectionism from the inside feels completely different. It does not feel like pride, it feels like dread. Like nothing is ever quite good enough to submit, to share, to rest with. Like the moment you stop improving something, the gap between what it is and what it should be becomes evidence of something about you not just about the work. You see, at the root of perfectionism is not a love of excellence. It is a fear that imperfection makes you unacceptable. That if people see the unfinished, the flawed, the mistake, they will see through it to the person underneath and find that person lacking. That is not about standards. That is about the belief that your worth is conditional. I have never met a people pleaser who was a pushover. The people who come to me with people pleasing as their primary struggle are almost always capable, most perceptive, most genuinely caring people I know. People pleasing is not a weakness. It is what happens when somewhere early on you learned that being agreeable, being useful, being needed was how you secured your place, how you earned your safety, how you made sure you would not be rejected, abandoned, or found wanting. And so you became very, very good at reading the room, at sensing what other people needed and quietly becoming that. And making yourself easy to keep, never a burden to anyone. But the cost over years, over decades, is that you begin to lose the thread of who you actually are, what you actually want, whether any of this life is really yours. People pleasing is not a personality trait. It is a wound that learned to look like a virtue, a strategy to be acceptable to other people at any cost. Even if that cost is you, your needs, your desires, your energy. Imposter syndrome, the sense that you are not quite what people think you are, that your achievements are borrowed, that humiliating discovery is inevitable, is almost universal among high-achieving people with low self-worth. And it makes a strange kind of sense when you understand the mechanism. When your sense of worth is not internal, when it depends on performance, on results, on other people's approval, every success lands as luck rather than as evidence of competence. Because the part of you that does not feel fundamentally worthy cannot take in the proof that it is. You can stack achievement on achievement and the inner verdict stays the same, because achievements live on the level of the mind, and this belief lives somewhere deeper. So we have four very different looking struggles. And yet when you trace each one back, when you follow the thread all the way to the end, you arrive at the same place every time. A deep, often unconscious belief that your worth is not inherent, that it is contingent, that it has to be earned, protected, proved, and constantly maintained. Anxiety is what happens when that belief makes the body feel unsafe. Perfectionism is what happens when that belief makes imperfection feel unacceptable. People-pleasing is what happens when that belief makes other people's approval feel necessary. And imposter syndrome is what happens when that belief makes achievement impossible to internalize. 4 symptoms, 1 root: low self-worth. And here is what that means, practically. If you have been trying to address these things separately, treating the anxiety as one problem, the perfectionism as another, the people-pleasing as a third, you have been doing something very understandable. And also something that explains why none of them has fully resolved. Because when you treat a symptom, you get symptomatic relief. But when the root is still there, the symptoms will find a way to come back. But address the root, that deep body level, often unconscious belief that you are not enough. And all 4 start to shift. Not because you managed them, because what was feeding them is no longer there. So if what I shared today has landed, if you recognize yourself in 1 or 2 or all 4 of these, I want you to know that this is not a verdict on you. These are not character flaws or permanent conditions. They are symptoms of something that was learned, and what was learned can be unlearned, not at the level of the mind alone, but at all 5 levels where the learning settled in. And that is the work this channel is here to support. And if you are ready to go deeper, I have put a link in the description to my free webinar, the 5-step framework to break free from low self-worth. It is the most complete explanation I have found of how to address this at the level where it actually lives. And if you are new here, please subscribe. There is a lot more coming. And thank you so much for being here today. I will see you in the next one.